The battlefield does not warn you before it takes your life. For the crew of a Russian T-90 tank, death arrives not with a whisper, but with a blinding flash. And for most, it is over in seconds. Military analysts estimate that when a T-90 takes a direct hit from a modern anti-tank weapon, as many as 80–90% of crews never return. Not because they lack courage, not because they refuse to fight, but because the very machine they are inside becomes their coffin. Picture this: 3 young men crammed inside a steel chamber, surrounded by the deafening roar of the engine, sweat dripping down their helmets, nerves stretched thin. Beneath their boots rests a carousel of shells, a ticking time bomb waiting for the enemy's strike. And when it comes, there is no escape. Fire erupts, ammunition ignites, and the turret, weighing several tons, blasts skyward like a rocket, leaving nothing but fire and ruin behind. These are not just statistics. They are stories of young soldiers swallowed whole by the cursed design of a tank once hailed as indestructible. So here is the question that chills the spine. What really happens to a T-90 crew when the armor fails? And why does survival almost never come? The T-90 entered service in the early 1990s, Russia's pride and successor to the Cold War arsenal. Advertised as one of the most advanced tanks in the world, it boasted thick composite armor, explosive reactive tiles, and modern targeting systems. To Russia, it was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of power. But the truth beneath the propaganda was more complicated. Inside a T-90, the crew is only 3, a commander, a gunner, and a driver. Western tanks, like the American Abrams, use 4, with 1 man dedicated to loading shells. The T-90 instead uses an autoloader system, a mechanical carousel that sits directly under the crew's feet. At first, it seemed like an advantage. It reduced manpower, saved space, and kept the tank small and mobile. But hidden within that design was a deadly flaw. The carousel held dozens of rounds of ammunition, all tightly packed together inside the fighting compartment. If enemy fire pierced the hull and struck the carousel, the entire ammunition rack could ignite at once. The result? A catastrophic explosion that didn't just kill the crew, it ripped the turret clean off the chassis. This flaw gave rise to a nickname whispered among tankers, the Jack-in-the-Box effect. For the soldiers, many barely out of their teenage years, climbing inside the T-90 was a mix of pride and dread. They were told this machine could withstand anything. But quietly, they saw the wrecks on battlefields, the twisted hulks of tanks with no survivors. Still, orders were orders. They mounted their steel beasts and rolled forward into the unknown, knowing deep down that they were gambling with their lives every time they entered enemy territory. And the cruel truth? The gamble almost never paid off. The modern battlefield became the T-90's curse. Anti-tank weapons had evolved beyond recognition. The American Javelin, the British NLAW, the Ukrainian Stugna P. These were predators designed to hunt tanks, striking from above where armor was weakest. Suddenly, the mighty T-90 was not a fortress, but prey. Crews lived under constant tension. Every mission was a game of survival. The sound of drones buzzing overhead became a nightmare because a drone meant eyes, and eyes meant death. The crew would sit cramped in silence, watching tree lines for smoke trails, ears ringing from artillery, hearts pounding as they rolled forward. They knew the statistics. They knew the odds. But they also knew something worse. Once the armor was breached, they would have seconds, sometimes less, before the carousel ignited and obliterated everything inside. Survivors spoke of the psychological toll. Some described hands trembling uncontrollably on the controls. Others admitted they could barely sleep, haunted by the memory of comrades who had never returned from their last mission. Reports from the battlefield revealed the same haunting image again and again. The twisted wreck of a T-90, its turret blown clear off, lying dozens of feet away. Sometimes smoke still rose from the blackened shell. Almost always the crew was gone, either vaporized in the blast or trapped inside a furnace that no man could escape. And yet, despite the horror, new crews were ordered into fresh T-90s the very next day. The cycle repeated as if human life was expendable in the face of steel and pride. Each mission felt cursed, a gamble the crews could not win. But what came next was even worse. The world saw it. Viral footage spread online. A T-90 struck by a precision-guided missile. In an instant, flames tore through the hull. Then the horror. The turret, weighing several tons, launched skyward like a toy, spinning into the air before crashing back to the earth. Inside, 3 men vanished in less than a heartbeat. This was not an isolated case. Analysts confirmed the grim pattern. In over 80% of T-90 hits, no crew survived. The autoloader system, once hailed as efficient, condemned them all. Unlike Western designs, which separated ammunition from the crew compartment, the T-90 offered no buffer, no escape hatch, no second chance. Survivors, the rare few, told stories that chilled the blood. One recalled a blinding flash followed by silence, waking up on the ground outside with shattered bones, thrown clear by the blast. His crewmates never made it out. Another spoke of seeing the fire spread faster than breath, light so bright it consumed the cabin before he lost consciousness. He woke in a hospital, the only man alive from his crew. Most never had the chance to tell their story. Their end was instant, their lives erased without trace. The truth was undeniable. The T-90 wasn't just a weapon of war. It was a steel coffin that demanded blood from those inside. And still, commanders called it invincible. When the fireball fades and the battlefield grows quiet, what remains is more than just wreckage. It is absence. It is silence. For the families of T-90 crews, closure is a rare mercy. Many never receive remains to bury. What comes home instead is a photograph, a folded flag, and the knowledge that their sons died inside a furnace of steel. In official propaganda, the T-90 is still paraded as unstoppable. But among soldiers, whispers tell another truth, that the tank is cursed, and those who climb inside it are already living on borrowed time. The wider impact cannot be ignored. For decades, militaries believed tanks ruled the battlefield. But the story of the T-90 shows otherwise. Drones and precision-guided missiles have turned these giants into fragile targets. Heavy armor, once a shield, has become a liability. And with every destroyed tank, another family is shattered, another story erased. The survivors carry scars both visible and invisible. Some never return to combat. The screams of comrades, the roar of the explosion, the feeling of being buried alive inside fire, these memories never fade. They echo in dreams, in silence, in the haunted eyes of men who lived when others did not. So here is the haunting question we must ask. In an age where precision weapons rule the skies, are tanks already obsolete? Or are they cursed machines demanding the lives of those who dare to man them? And perhaps the deadliest truth of all, it wasn't always the missile that killed them. Sometimes it was the silence of history, forgetting those who never returned.